Leadership of Jesus. I think we missed that. Now I want to give that in a very extent. Leadership of Jesus. Very interesting. Do you think that Jesus was a leader?
Yes.
Jesus was the leader par excellence. We call great leader par excellence. Jesus was the leader. Right? What we can learn from, right? Friends, you are not doing a course on leadership. You are in fact preparing yourself to be a best Christian leader. Amen? Isn't it? Now anybody can do a course. In fact, you can do an online course. Right? But it is all about preparing yourself. We will see how Jesus trained the disciples. Are you getting? Right? How did he pick up the disciples in his company? How many were there? 12. Isn't it? 12 disciples. How Jesus selected those 12? What was the selection process? The disciples come from which background? Fishermen, yes. What else? Tax collector. Was there any, like we call it, businessman who had a lot of money in the 12 disciples? Who was that was the only treasurer. Luke was the disciple of Christ. Right? When you listen here, that's what the real test is. When you want to change the world, how many people do you need? Change the whole world. Forget about the world. If you want to change your own state, how many people will you pick up? Change your own state. What? How many people do you think is needed? If you want to change whole Farooq Nagar, how many people do you think needed? 2. Man, you are 17, 50 or 60. Right? It is to change the Farooq Nagar. You are here since 3 years, right? This is the 3rd year.
Second year.
This is your 3rd year, right?
Third year, but this is the second year. We are in third year, but this is our second year in this school.
Oh,
We joined from second year.
okay, right. 2nd year, this is what the thing is. Now, that's what we have to think about. How many people are needed? For God, it is only 12 needed. And these 12 were the ones who changed the whole history of the world. Agree? These were the ones. And because of their ministry, their 12 people's ministry, we are here. Agree? Isn't it? It is those 12 people who shook the whole world, who changed the whole history. Alright? We are more than 12. Right? What is the problem? Why we are not able to make, I will say, John Maxwell's definition, influence others? Something we have to learn from Jesus. Something we have to learn from God. Again, that's what the first the selection process. Whom he was picking up. They were ordinary people. Acts chapter 4. Isn't it? They were ordinary people. Read that, Acts chapter 4. Where is your Bible? Acts chapter 4. When Pharisees saw the disciples' boldness and courage, remember that verse? When they saw their boldness, Acts chapter 4. verse 13. Read it.
Now, when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, they marveled, and they took knowledge of them that they had been with Jesus.
Yes. When they saw the courage of Peter and John and realized that they were what? Unschooled. And the second word they have written, ordinary men. But then they realized that they had been to, London School of Leadership. Is it? They are coming from a big universities. No. What they realized? They realized that these men were with Jesus. That's enough. Okay? Right? Do you think that Peter was fooled? It says unschooled, right? Do you think that Peter was a scholar? By the way, what do you mean by scholar? Those who go to good universities, they are the scholars. Do you think that Peter was a scholar?
Yeah, he was good in his business.
He was good in physics, but not a scholar. Huh? Why you are reading his books, man? We are still reading his books and trying to understand the depth of what Peter has written. Am I right? 2000 years, brother. And the whole Bible colleges and seminaries are still trying to understand. They are doing PhDs in Peter's epistle. And you are telling me that Peter was not a scholar. The PhDs we are reading from these people, and we are saying that they are not scholars, we are scholars. Interesting. Right? I think that assumption is wrong. Many people think that Jesus was not a scholar. Well, he changed the whole world. Yeah? Right? He changed the whole world. Is Paul, do you think Paul was a scholar? Definitely he was a scholar. Right? They understood it and they wrote it in such a way that even after 2000 years we are still struggling to understand the depth of God's word. Isn't it? What do you mean by that? They were also ordinary people like you and me. Are you getting? What leadership lesson we can learn? Jesus picked up common people. Jesus picked up the people who were available. What lesson we learn from Jesus? Come on. What lesson are we learning? We learn that it doesn't matter as far as God is concerned, our qualification. What is important is our availability for the whole project. They were available. Training will take place afterwards. But first of all, it should be available. And they were following what Jesus was telling. Are you getting? That made them bold. That made them realize, wow, every sermon of Peter, it was so beautiful sermon that even the people wrote it down, each and every word. Isn't it? And we read it in Acts chapter 3, 4, 5, Peter's sermon. Each and every word was written. And you can understand the depth of theology which is there in that sermon. Agree or disagree? Imagine people start taking down each and every word of our sermon. You know? Make sure that, how they. And so, they were ordinary, they were all unschooled, but still they can do marvel. Why? It is all about leadership, the way they were trained. The second question in this is, I'll ask you. At what age Jesus died? What was the age? Huh? 33 and a half. Right? You're right. What time he started his ministry? At the age of 30. Friends, when God gives you a project, go and change the whole world. And God tells you that you have only 33 years. Now 33 is not a good age to die. Agree? 33 is not a good age. Now if God gives you only 33 years, 33 and a half, and tells you to go and change the world, but you have only 33 and a half years, what time you will start the ministry? I think the moment we come out from our mother's womb, we'll start preaching to the nurse also. But Jesus started at the age of 30. What he was doing till 30 years? Any idea? What he was doing for 30 years?
Like according to the Jewish, when I think I was 25 or something, they have been trained.
Huh?
Like 25 to 30 is the time where the Jewish has to be trained in their scripture, everything in Jewish culture. Like,
No. They go at very from childhood.
yeah, but there is a man, and there's a place where they used to be trained, and I think after that they can do their like ministries.
No, I don't know from where you got that idea. I don't think that Jesus had gone to the rabbinical school of the Jewish rabbinical school. I don't think he was very much. Right? What he was doing? Any idea?
Preparing. Nothing.
For 30 years of preparation. And listen to me carefully, and you can write it down. Listen to this first. Friends, if you and I have 30 years of preparation, then you need only 3.5 years to change the whole world. Agree? Right? That's why each and every word was written down. Each and every sermon was written down. Everything was calculated. Because when you have 30 years of preparation, you need only 3.5 years to change the whole world. We do ulta. We take 3 years of training, 30 years of ministry. Agree? And then we expect a revival. And probably for most of us, this is the first and the last degree. I will never come to Bible college. Am I right? No, I will never come. Because we don't want to get well prepared. But we need to learn. That's the leadership lesson which we are missing. He was very much focused, yes. Don't you think that he was in a hurry? He didn't have time also. He had got only 33.5 years. That's what heaven told him. That we will give you only this. But he was still, let me prepare. Let me prepare well. That's why each and everything was calculated. Where he will go, how he will go, with whom he will go, everything, every miracle was calculated. And so, you have only 3.5 years of ministry. Done. Tata bye-bye, it is finished, I am going. I think that's the way a leader is. Isn't it? And that's something which we have to. Don't neglect the time of preparation. It is important. It is important. The best preparation is, the better result will be. Agree? Isn't it? Preparing well. That's the thing. Okay? Got it? So don't minimize the time for preparation. Preparation time is not a waste time. Okay? It is not a waste time. It is what you prepare. You are serious about the business. Right? Isn't it? If something which you are serious about, you are very much serious, you will spend more time in preparation. Are you getting it? Right? Imagine when you have to preach your sermons in the chapel, what time you will come? 9, 10? Which dress you will wear? You will pick up the best shirt for your preaching. Agree? That shows preparation. Right? That shows. And when you will iron the shirt? In the morning, 8:30? One day before. Shoe also polished. Even hanky is all well pressed. Preparation. Right? Are you getting it? Right? And that's it's important. Okay? Now let's do Jesus' leadership. You can make a column. One is people. People he reached or taught. You make 3 columns. Method. Method of ministry. And then we have 3rd column. Theological or leadership lessons. Theological or leadership lessons. Okay? Now this is what we make a column. Number 1. You tell me, who are the people he reached? Who are the people he reached? Come on. It's a very simple lesson. To whom he ministered? To whom? Who are the people he was approachable? Come on. What? Yeah, poor people, okay. Who else? Keep writing. Who else? Who are the people he reached?
The sick people,
The sick?
broken,
Huh?
broken bones.
Yeah, that's only one and all thing. Then you will say blind, then you will say lame, then you will say this. That's the sick. Who are the people? Religious leaders, isn't it? The Pharisees, come on. The Sadducees, the scribes, the teacher of the laws. These are the people. Who else? The sinners, yes. Who are sick, sinners, okay. Who else? Come on, keep writing.
Fishermen,
Fishermen, okay. Who else? Who are the people he reached? Did he reach to women?
yes,
What? Who else?
widows,
Arey Baba. Then single ladies, then married ladies, then married ladies with 2 children,
another lady,
another lady, women. Who else? Was he approachable to children?
yes,
Yeah, keep writing.
men,
Men also.
Men.
Isn't it? We have already written fishermen, men also. Was he approachable by the scholars? We have already written the teachers of the law, Nicodemus and all. Look at that. Now, look at the variety. Who else?
warrior,
Huh?
warrior,
Warrior, the soldiers, you can say, the centurion and all. Okay? Who else? Keep writing, okay?
Dead people.
Huh?
Dead people. Dead people.
You met dead people. Okay? He raised the dead people. He didn't go and meet them, let me go and meet the Lazarus.
he met demon possessed.
Yeah, demon possessed and all, the sick and all. We can talk about it. Okay? Then, what are the methods of his ministry? miracles, then sermons. What else? Teaching. Yeah, miracles.
Parables.
Parables. Okay. What else? What else? The method. Yeah, will. What are the methods? We have object lessons. What do you mean by object lessons? Should we pay the tax? What did he say? What did he do? Bring what? Bring the coin. And from the coin, he was telling, we call it object lessons. Isn't it? Was Jesus using the riddles? Riddle? You understand riddle? Was he using riddles? Was he having a dialogue? Dialogue also is important. Did he use stories, parables? No? Whenever he opened his mouth, he opened in what? Parables. Isn't it? Right? Right? Okay. Now, this is what? What are the theological lessons we can learn from this? Number one is incarnation. Incarnation. The Word became what? John 1:14. Read someone. John 1:14. You can write it down the passage there. John 1:14.
And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, glory as of the only begotten of the Father.
Yeah, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Beauty. Okay? Your message. If I teach you communication, then we will have the message should take the form of flesh. Right? And that's what we have the contextual theology. I hope you have done contextual theology. No? Contextual theology is very important. Contextual, how to contextualize the gospel in your present context. That's very important. That's what God is doing. It is not human idea to contextualize. It is God's idea to contextualize. Okay? That's why one quotation, write it down before I forget. John Edapalli for this incarnation. John Edapalli. Palli. EDAPALLY. John Edapalli. Right? John Edapalli. Write it down. The Word became Jew. The Word became Jew and dwelt among the Jewish people. The Word became Jew and dwelt among the Jewish people. I think that's the correct translation of John 1:14. Think about it. Jesus was a Jew, isn't it? And dwelt among what? Jewish people. That's the correct. That's the beauty. And that's what Paul says. For Jewish, I become Jew. For the Greeks, I become Greek so that I can win some. It is all about becoming the process. Are you getting? And so, incarnation is very important. Make sure that your leadership should be incarnational. Right? Incarnational. And then, the second one is kenosis. Two theological kenosis. Kenosis is what? Philippians chapter 2. What do you mean by kenosis? The literal meaning, emptying himself. Isn't it? Emptying himself. Philippians chapter 2. Kenosis. So it is incarnational, it is kenosis. Right? It is kenosis. Kenosis means what? Emptying himself. Yesterday we were talking about carrying the cross. Some leaders are very good to give their crosses to others, but they themselves don't carry. But we should be carrying our own cross, and that is important. Okay? And so, now, few leadership lessons which we can learn. Probably after this you can write it down. Leadership lessons. What we can learn from this? The way Jesus reached to variety of people. People coming from all background, irrespective of, write it down. Jesus approached people of all background. Jesus approached people of all background, irrespective of, irrespective. What do you mean by the irrespective? IRRESP, irrespective of, no matter. Irrespective of class, 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 status, gender, religion, ethnicity, etc. Look at that. You know, you can write it down before etc. Age group also you can write it down. Age group. People of different age group. What lessons you can learn from this, from Jesus? He was approachable to all people. You give him a scholar, he will satisfy them also. You give him a poor people, he will satisfy them also. Give him a sick, you give him a fisherman, you talk about the sinners, you talk about even women. He was approachable even to the children, even to the soldiers. I think that's the beauty of theological education, where we are trained in not one area but in all the aspect of ministry. Some people say that, I'm good only in children ministry. Yes, you are good, yeah, that's your talent. But then as far as the training is concerned, it should be overall. Because Jesus was approachable to all age group. Can you preach to children? And can you preach to the scholars? Scholars. Where the PhD people from philosophy background, from science background can come and ask questions to you, and then you are helpless. Look at that. Don't you think that our training should be, multidisciplinary, we call it? Right? Look at that. He was very much well trained. He knows how to handle Nicodemus. He knows. And that's why Nicodemus, such a great scholar, he found something in Jesus. And that's why he went and asked him, tell us, from where you got this wisdom? From where you got this knowledge? How Jesus got this wisdom? He didn't, Preparation. How he was preparing. How he was preparing. I'll tell you, in the Jewish society there is a book, I don't know whether there in the library. If it's not there, somebody check. Who will check? Himnu? Your job, both of the girls. Check that book. Huh? Wisdom in the Jewish Literature. That's the name of the book. Okay? Just check it, or anything that talks about the wisdom literature. You can bring it out. And then it says that even though they have not gone to schools as such, but wisdom and knowledge was gained through observation, observing the natural events. And that's why Jesus, you talk about Solomon and all. Why Solomon? Solomon has gone to university? No. During that time, the wisdom and knowledge was gained through what? Observation. Friends, you should be very good in observation. If I teach you hermeneutics, that's the first step of hermeneutical principle, observation. Okay? And that's why we can say that. Approachable to all people, even including women, including children. Right? How would you prepare a sermon for the Hindus? How would you prepare a sermon for the Muslims? So everywhere John 3:16, huh? John 3:16, Zindabad. So if it's a scholar, John 3:16. If it's a poor people, John 3:16. Are you saved? Are you saved? Huh? That kind of thing, brother. Right? So that's what it's very important for the leaders. Write down one quotation from Ravi Zacharias. Have you heard this man?
Yes, sir.
Oh man. His watch is recently passed away. Ravi Zacharias, a great apologetic person. Apologist. Ravi Zacharias, R-A-V-I-Z-A-C-H-A-R-I-A-S. Ravi Zacharias. Are you reading his books? Which book you read? Huh? What? The Grand Weaver. Okay. Yes. Can man live without God? Talking about four principles. Love, security. Isn't it? Wonderful book. That's the first book I read. Can man live without God? Anybody?
Jesus among other gods.
Huh? Jesus among other gods. Confronting what? Specially taking for two scholars, John and Blaise Pascal. And the second one is what? Which God he is confronting? Jesus among other gods. Did you read that book? Yeah. Which God is confronting? Buddhism. Right? Two scholars is confronting in that book, Jesus among other gods. Number one is, taking argument from John Pascal, wonderful scholar. And the second one is Buddhism, he is countering. Remember that book? He was sitting in a boat and then having a conversation with a monk and all, that's how he goes. Beautiful book. Any other book? Brother? Don't look at back. Yeah, I knew you will look back. I'm talking about you. No, still you. He's such a humble guy. Whenever I ask question, he said, you answer. Any book, brother? Locked down. The mind also locked down. Any other? Grand Weaver. Right? Yes. Can man live without God? Please.
Yeah.
Do you have that book in the library? No. Just check. If you don't have, we'll bring it.
The real face of
The real face of atheism. Yes.
Yeah.
Anybody interested in apologetics? Defending the faith? 1, 2. Yeah. Yes. Do you read books on apologetics? I will pray that at least you will stand for 1 minute when the arguments will come. Okay? You cannot do really apologetics when if you are not a good reader. Okay? Yes, Norman Geisler, if you are an apologetic. Did you read that book? Christian Apologetics? Wonderful book. Right, Rabbi Zacharias. What I believe in my heart, what I believe in my heart, what I believe in my heart should make sense. What I believe in my heart should make sense to my mind. Read that quotation again. Read together. 1, 2, 3, start.
What I believe in my heart should make sense to my mind.
What I believe in my heart should make sense to my mind. Are you getting? In bracket, next line, you can write it down. What's the meaning of that? Because the things goes into the mind first and then it filters to the heart. That's the argument Rabbi Zacharias is making. The things that we hear first goes into the mind first and then it filters into the heart. The things I hear goes into the mind first and then it filters in the heart. You get it? It is the mind. It is the mind. For the Rabbi Zacharias, unless this is not satisfied, chances are there that you cannot follow Jesus faithfully and for longer period. Right? This should be satisfied. How this should be satisfied? See, I'll tell you one thing. We all accept Jesus as the Lord. Any problem? I think that's the evangelical faith, isn't it? Right? We all accept Jesus as the Lord. When Jesus is the Lord, listen carefully. When Jesus is the Lord, don't you think that you and I have said no to other gods and goddesses? Make sense? Isn't it? Right? Do you have a reason why you said no to them and yes to Jesus? Why Krishna is not Lord and why Christ? Prove it. You cannot just say, I believe. You believe anything. That's what intellectual faith. That's what Peter is talking about. Be prepared to give what? Faith or reason? Reason for your faith. Don't do ulta. Okay? Right? We getting? So that's what the intellectual thing. Okay? So he was approachable to all. Second, leadership lessons, and then we will go. Is what? Jesus is an expert. Jesus is an expert or was an expert in all methodologies. In all methodologies of education. Education. What do you mean by methodologies of education? Methodology. Have you heard this word before? Methodology. What is the difference between method and methodology? The big difference, right? You need not to worry about all these things. When you go for FTH, then you will understand. You know? Hopefully the MPH people know what is the difference between method and methodology. Okay? If not, ask them. I hope they will tell you the difference between method and methodology. He was very much well versed in all this. You talk about miracles, you talk about sermons, you talk about teaching, you talk about parables, object lessons, dialogue, open for everything. What a knowledge! Wonderful knowledge. He is very well versed in all this thing. Nowadays, preaching, if you have this preaching course, homiletics, you will have a new way of preaching that is going on. Is more of a. Have you heard different types of sermons? What are those types? Topical, textual, narrative, expository.
That's your,
Yeah, that's what expository is.
that's your,
Then,
that's your
yeah, textual I did it.
biography.
Biography. Which one?
Testimonial.
Testimonial preaching. What is that? Caleb. Caleb production. Anything that is not working, let me share my testimony. So that's what else? We have 5. Before coming here, I was taking seminars with the pastors, 40 pastors. We came up with 12 different ways of preaching. 12, not 5. Seminary teaches only 5. We teach 12. You get it? Pastors, this is our, we call it, this is our trade. And we should be expert in the tools. We should be very much thorough with what we are doing. Jesus was very much, it's not my creation. It's there in the Bible. We don't do it. Are you getting? So it's there, how to do it. But what I'm trying to say that, look at the areas of knowledge which Jesus had. He was expert and satisfying each and everybody. That much knowledge, that much of experience, that much of wisdom, he had it. And that's what we as Christian leaders should learn from Jesus, that as much as possible we should be reading a lot to become an expert. Why? Because our Master has taught us to do that. He has set an example for us. It's not I am proposing. It is Jesus who is proposing. Don't you think? Jesus who was proposing. Whether it is only a women group, you should be able to preach to the women group. Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, you should be able to preach different sermons to all of them. Whether it is children, we should come up with that also. Whether it is scholars sitting, PhD holders in front of you, should be able to preach them also. Are you getting? Agree, disagree? That is what Christian leadership Jesus is talking about. Are you getting? That's what 30 years of preparation. Very solid preparation. Right? And then we have a best leader who trained 12 men, changed the whole world, and we are the fruit of their ministry. You get it? So once we have that kind of preparation, then don't you think that disciples were very enthusiastic to preach the gospel? Let me go. And Jesus sent them one. And they came back very joyfully. And then they wanted to preach again and again probably. Jesus, wait there. You need power also. Right? And then they got the power. They were waiting, preparing for all those things. And that's why we have this wonderful ministry. Are you getting it? Right? Any questions on Jesus' leadership? What lesson you have learned from Jesus? Come on. Give me one sentence. What lessons you learned? Prepare well. Yes. What else? How? What did you like it? Today's class?
We must be prepared well and for the future, because as Jesus has been preparing, so we have to prepare more to face in the future means.
Yes. What else? What else?
So Jesus, being very popular in those days as a leader, he was being approachable by any group of people.
Yes.
There is no making up of any kind of people.
Yes.
You know, reject anyone.
Yes. Friends, you should be passionate about the youth of your area. Isn't it? prepare well for the youth ministry because you are more approachable than me. If you talk to youth, they will listen to you rather than me. Why? Same age. Are you getting? That's what you should be preparing yourself for the youth ministry. Don't think that because you have a degree you are very well prepared for the youth ministry. No, it's not like that. You have done only one course probably. But training expert is something which we need. Isn't it? Right? Right? So this is what Jesus is. So let's prepare well, and then do it. That's what our master has set an example. Okay? Let's go for tea, and afternoon, 11:30, you will have